Now, for the past 3 years, woke ITV and its hard-left boss, Carolyn McCall, the former chief executive of The Guardian newspaper, has set itself up as a paragon of virtue and a home where only uber-woke PC virtue signallers are allowed. If you dared to question the lies of Meghan and Harry, ask difficult questions about the COVID pandemic or the side effects of vaccinations, you were swiftly shown the door. Such a fate awaited big-name talent like Piers Morgan, Jeremy Kyle, Carol McGiffin, Eamon Holmes and Jeremy Clarkson. But for 3 years, that same woke ITV has seemingly been covering up its own dirty little scandal involving an affair between Philip Schofield and a male colleague 30 years his junior, who he met when he was a young teen and had moved onto the Loose Women show as their relationship soured. Now I'm finally able to reveal my own involvement in this story in full for the first time, even though I have tried to hint it and share it with you over the past couple of years. So, after 10 years, myself working on ITV Daytime, I left the broadcaster after being told that I would be pulled off air if the Sun newspaper continued to write stories about Philip Schofield. That's where I was working at the time. Now, this wasn't the first time the bloke had tried to get me sacked, so I knew what he was about. At that point, I rejected ITV's offer of a new 12-month contract so that I could report on what was a growing scandal, which, let me be honest with you, was known by virtually every staff member at ITV Daytime, both on and off screen. And in November 2019, as the executive editor of the Sun newspaper, I put the details officially to Carolyn McCall's right-hand man, ITV's Group Corporate Affairs and Communications Director, Paul Moore. Surely, I said to him, at the very least, ITV must want to launch an investigation, right, just to find out if what everyone was saying was true. But instead, ITV decided to release a statement defending Philip and insisting he was the victim of, quote, malicious gossip. Of course, after Philip's bombshell statement admitting the affair and conceding he is a serial liar on Friday, we know it was nothing of the sort. I'm glad, and this is important for me to remind you actually, that I was still able to get a watered-down version of the story into print for the first time. So this is what I was able to report in December 2019. We have learned Philip's PA and personal runner, a male in his 20s, left this morning to work on Loose Women despite a previous close friendship with him. ITV say he was promoted. Of course, as you now know, it's taken more than 3 years for the full details to emerge. And ITV now stands accused of protecting a presenter who was responsible of an abuse of power. Something I asked Eamon Holmes about in our bombshell interview, which, let me remind you, is airing in full very soon.
It's a delusion, it's an illusion, the whole thing is...
But isn't it a cover-up?
Yes, it's a total cover-up. It's a total cover-up. Those in authority had to know, they had to know what was going on, and they thought they would dodge a bullet with this, which they do, and they do constantly. Because with Schofield talking about those who speak out against him, namely me, Amanda Holden, and you'll be included in the toxicity that goes on.
Dr. Ange too.
Dr. Ange, of course, as well. And you simply sit there and think, no, mate, you've had it all your way for too long.
ITV has claimed in a statement that they did in fact launch an investigation into Schofield's affair with the young runner in early 2020. But given how widely the details of the affair were known, it clearly wasn't a very good one. The former Culture Secretary, Nadine Dorries, believes ITV senior staff, including this morning's editor and other senior figures, including the lead presenter, Holly Willoughby, has some serious questions to answer.
That Philip Schofield has made a rather grovelling apology to the Daily Mail in the form of an email. There seems to be this understanding that that's it now, everything will move on, and it's not the case, I'm afraid, because what it actually does is open up more questions as to what happened. We know that there were complaints lodged with ITV over a long period of time. What happened to those complaints? I think the editor of the programme, Martin Frizzell, has some questions to answer himself, and I'm afraid so does Holly Willoughby. And how did that young boy, so young, get a job at ITV? What were the processes that were involved? What was the safeguarding in place for someone who was so young at that age?
But today, when my producer Ben Leo tracked the broadcaster's director of television Kevin Ligo down, he refused to answer any of these serious questions.
Kevin, sorry to bother you. Ben from Dan Wootton Show on GB News.
Right. Really, I've never wanted to say.
And you can't explain why Mr Schofield's lover is saying he never spoke to ITV. Was it a cover-up, as some have suggested? Who was protecting Schofield? Were you involved? Was Carolyn involved, Martin? It appears he was being protected, and his relationship with the young producer was covered up. So who was involved in it? Was it you?
We've really no more to say.
Okay, thanks for your time.
Now, some of you have been asking why this story matters. And I would say if our biggest commercial broadcaster is protecting a major star accused of wrongdoing while throwing various others to the wolves because they don't sign up to a craven woke ideology, that suggests there is a real problem at the top. An official inquiry should be launched into the alleged cover-up, where I will happily agree to give evidence.